Man, I miss it. Man, that's a hip hop show. I mean, honestly, in the 90s, now we were just talking about this during the break, but in the 90s, like we didn't know how good we had it. Like the guys who I looked at as legends, when legends took to the airwaves, you was gonna hear what Common was talking about. Dela, A Tribe Called Quest, you know, The Far Side, Brand Nubians. It was like, what? Outcast and Aquemini. I mean, oh my goodness. Jesus Christ. Yeah, good stuff, man. 90s hip hop, still the best. So we're going to go ahead and stay in the Big 12. Going to talk about a story right now that it didn't get biased. It just finally dropped. We did Hines Ward the other day. He's got the coaching gig at Arizona State at the wide receiver position. However, the NCAA, they dropped the hammer on them for recruiting violations. Now, this comes to you by way of the Arizona Republic, Michelle Gardner. Great author. She was just had a great piece, and it really got me caught up. And it talked about some of the things that I like in this show is that you don't have to be an expert or follow that team or be a diehard or a blue blood, but you can go ahead and be informed. And if you're not informed, then why are you listening? That's a very good marker. This is just getting you informed so you can form an opinion. You can talk to anybody, especially a homer of the team. They'll ask you and look at you like, wow, how long have you been following this team? Are you a really fan? You're like, no, I just listened to this podcast and just brought it out of us. I digress. Over a 3-year investigation into recruiting violations by Arizona State and the football staff during the COVID pandemic in the final coming to a close, according to the NCAA announcement today, that included sanctions against the program. The agreed upon penalties include 4 years of probation for the school, a fine, because the NCAA is about extortion. Why else? A self-imposed postseason ban for the 2023 football season, which already had been announced last year, vacating records for contests in which ineligible student athletes competed, scholarship reductions, recruiting restrictions in alignment with the Level 1 mitigated classification for the school. Damn. Wow. That's harsh. Now the school, they disassociated an involved booster for a period of 5 years. Why not ban that guy for life? Because this is starting to read a lot like you all were chasing the money. Because you said that a booster could not be he could not be with the program for 5 years. Come on now. Just ban him for life. The individual also agreed to or did not contest the show cause orders ranging from 3 to 10 years consistent with the Level 1 aggravated classification of their respective violations. This investigation centered around then head coach Herm Edwards. That's why they play the games. That's why we play the games. And associate head coach and recruiting coordinator Antonio Pierce. Bum, bum, bum. Hosting recruits on campus during what was supposed to be a dead period. Pierce is now the head coach of the NFL's Las Vegas Raiders. So the writing was on the wall with Antonio Pierce because he was at Arizona State with Herm Edwards when they was doing all of this. Again, they were investigating these people for 3 years. And he made a move to dodge accountability and go to the NFL. And I tell you why I got a problem with this. I'll tell you why I got a problem with this when we come back from a quick 20 from an unofficial sponsor of the show. This is Big Vern at App Stupid. Drop the clip. Little Caesars Pizza. Download the app, order online, or visit the good folks at your local Little Caesars. Try the pepperoni, crazy puffs, $3.99. You can make it a meal when you add any 2-liter to that crazy puffs order. It's going to be $5.99. Not feeling that? Looking for a pizza night? Good weekend for it. NBA playoffs. Try the stuffed pretzel crust with cheese sauce and many more items. Little Caesars Pizza. So when we last left off, I was telling you why I had a problem with guys leaving college, escaping any kind of penalties, not facing the music, but the school and the kids who are there now have to go ahead and deal with those mistakes. And Roger Goodell can do this because he did it to Pryor. Let me go ahead and just rewind your mind in the time machine. I like that. Remember the scenario in Busta Rhymes? Powerful impact, heal up, reel up, bring it back, come rewind. Powerful impact, boom from the cannon. Ohio State, Trussell. I think it was Terrell Pryor that it said that he had signed some memorabilia or whatever for a booster or what have you. He was under investigation. Ohio State was under investigation. He goes to the NFL. He's drafted by then the Los Angeles Raiders before they went to Oakland. Roger Goodell imposed a penalty on this kid who hadn't played one down in the NFL. He hadn't done anything. He did what a lot of coaches do. Again, it's all about demonizing the working class because now you have coaches, 2 of them in the NFL. You have Antonio Pierce and you have Jim Harbaugh. They were under investigation. They left and got a job in the pros and escaped all accountability. And nobody is saying nothing. Nobody is saying nothing about everything that they've done. Even Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards was the head coach at this time. He's named in this criminal investigation. Let me back up. He's named in the NCAA investigation. Herm went back to work at ESPN. He escaped any responsibility. These guys, they don't get held accountable. We only want to punish the kids. We only want to talk about the kids and their ridiculousness. That's the way that corrupt sports media has done business. They know these coaches and these adult figures, they have all the access. So you throw them softballs and give them all kind of fluff pieces. And not once has anybody asked Antonio Pierce about his violations for hosting kids during the COVID dead period in recruiting violations. Whew. So the school and 4 individuals who previously worked in the program have reached an agreement with the NCAA enforcement staff on recruiting violations, as well as the appropriate penalties for those violations. A committee on infraction panel has approved the agreement. The 2 individuals are contesting portions of their cases via written records and hearing. After the written record hearing, the committee will release its full decision. So I wonder who those individuals were, because they didn't give them a name. But they were quick to point out that Herm Edwards and Antonio Pierce ain't it. Violations included in-person recruiting contacts during COVID-19 dead period, recruiting inducement, impermissible tryouts, and tampering. What? More layers to the penalties imposed on Arizona State football. The negotiated resolution also involved the parties' agreement that the violations demonstrated unethical conduct by involving individuals and a head coach responsibility violation. Several involved individuals also failed to meet their legislative responsibilities to cooperate throughout the investigation phase of this case. The school also agreed that it failed to monitor its football program. So, it's like the old saying, if you didn't do anything, then why are you not talking? You have something to hide. And where there's smoke, there's fire. Because they're saying that not only the head coach, but other individuals involved in this case, they pretty much aren't talking. They're not cooperating. And if you didn't do anything, then what's all that about? The school took several steps to mitigate potential penalties. Among those, like we talked about in the beginning, was a self-imposed ban in the postseason in 2023. They weren't going to make it anyway. They also limited the days left that the staff can go on the road for recruiting purposes. In July of 2021, as the investigation took off, 4 coaches either resigned or were fired. That included Pierce, the offensive coordinator, Zach Hill, and the coaches Prentice Gill, Chris Hawkins, and Adam Brenneman, none of whom have coached college football since then. So when they got a light shined on them and they were found out, they were fired. And instead of trying to get another college football gig, they all went to the pros. They did not stay in college. They all went to the pros. Despite those departures, Herm Edwards, this is why we play the games. Remained the head coach. It wasn't until the team struggled in 2022 that he was fired from the program. 3 games into his 5th season, he immediately returned to his role as a television analyst for ESPN, a position he's held before getting the head coach job at Arizona State. That's crazy. Again, these people don't accept responsibility. And how are you going to go ahead and talk to a kid about the choices he makes and the mistakes he made and get him to be held accountable and be a man of substance when the coaching staff isn't that? Clearly, you all were doing something you shouldn't have. You were involved in something you shouldn't be in. And then not only did you not cooperate with the investigation, but also like I said, you fled. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sorry. You got fired during the whole time this whole thing was going on, and you fled. Now, it did also say that there are 4 individuals that are cooperating and negotiating with the NCAA, and 2 of them are already contesting their own separate case. They didn't mention that it was Pierce or Herm Edwards. This is why we played the games. We played the games. Now, Arizona State's their response to the penalties. The COVID dead period rules were created not only for the sake of competition, equity, but for the safety and well-being of prospects and enrolled student athletes and their families. ASU President Michael Crow, he said ASU is disappointed and embarrassed by the actions of certain former football staff members who took advantage of a global pandemic to hide their behavior. Again, accountability. Nobody's going to ask Antonio Pierce, what was he thinking? What was he doing? Holding unsanctioned tryouts, hosting people to come on campus that shouldn't have been on campus in a dead period. Nobody's going to ask Herman Edwards what he knew, when he knew it, or why he allowed it to continue under his watch. Integrity is a core value everything we do at Arizona State University, and this includes the Sun Devil athletics. Crow also said ASU took quick and decisive action upon learning of potential violations and cooperated fully with the NCAA from the start to finish in a way that the enforcement staff described as a model for all institutions to follow. You had to cooperate. You had to cooperate. You had to get that stain off the university. So it wasn't like you did anything, like I said, bravery. They'll give you the antics. But if it went this deep, then again, it's going to come up. And one of the things I love about this channel is that we always follow the story. We keep following the story. We just don't chase the headlines. I want to know how this story progresses. And we keep following the stories. We did it with UK. We did it with Indiana and Coach Woodson. We're going to keep following these stories because there's more to come. If the fallout was this swift, there was more going on than just recruiting violations. That was scratching the surface. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. But Big 12, how do you feel? Like I said, Arizona State, you had good. What a difference a day makes. You had great news the other day and bad news today. Got a story, our last story coming up, and we'll jump into that when we come back. This is Big Vern at App Stupid.